In this episode of the Locked On NBA Big Board podcast, Richard Stayman, aka Mavs Draft, is going to break down some of the players that he is higher on than the consensus. Stay tuned. Big shout out to each and every person that has made the Locked On NBA Big Board podcast your first listen of the day. And this episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. I'm your host, Rafael Barlowe, the director of scouting for NBA Big Board and the founder of NBA Draft Junkies. And my co-host for today is Mr. Mavs Draft. It's been a minute. How's everything been going your way? And Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too. It's things have been good. We've been watching a lot of NBA and college basketball, so excited to talk about the two Mavs draft guys and then some other guys too.
All right, so if there's a guy that you are higher on than the consensus, if there's one guy that he's like your guy, who's that?
I feel like this is like there's two of them, but who do you think it is?
I have no idea because I know two for sure. I don't know which one you would have. I'll say 1A and 1B.
Yeah, I'll do with the one who I could see potentially going first round. I'll start with him, which is Mike Miles at TCU. I mean, just Wednesday night, he had a phenomenal game, 33 points on 12-21 shooting. He's becoming unstoppable getting to the rim. And when you're 6'1" and doing it the way he does, which is speed, finesse, just craftiness in and around defenders, going to the line, scoring at all three levels, I think it translates up.
Yeah, I had an agent tell me that even though he thought he wasn't concerned about Miles' inefficiency last year, he said that he is a guy that once he's in a role where he has better players around him, he's going to be just fine. And he was really high on him. And other than you, he was the only other person that I felt like was honestly saying I think he could be a first-round pick. In your opinion, what is the biggest difference between him this year and last year when he struggled with inefficiency?
Yeah, I think it's easily the fact that last year he was forcing, I would even say, runners, because that was something he worked on at the FIBA U19 in 2021 when he was teammates like Chet Holmgren, Patrick Baldwin, all those guys. He was doing a lot of runners when he got a chance to go to the rim. And now he's turned those shots into, which, by the way, last year, I think he only shot like 35% on or something. And it was a good chunk. Like I did the math. If you took out those runners, he goes from a sub 40% field goal percentage to 42, 43 range. Like it was a big difference. Now, instead of runners, he's actually going to the rim, getting more layups, more high efficient shots, and also getting to the line at way higher level than he did last year.
Yeah, his free throws are up 3 points per game. His field goal percentage is up like 14 points per game, but the 3-point percentage is still, it's still hovering around the low 30s. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that's something that it'll come around. Like the form is good. I buy the free throw percentage coming up. That's also weirdly low. Like there are some red flags with that. Like his freshman year, he shot 36% from three, 83% from the line. That is incredible efficiency. That translates up. But last year, 29.5 from three, 76% from the line, both numbers down. Really, the 76 is fine, but this year it's alarming. 30% from three, 67.5% from the line. I don't know if it's mental. I think he's got a good shot. I don't know why it's falling, though.
Yep, I'm going to switch gears for a second here. You said something, and I've been thinking about it for like the past few days. Actually, after yesterday's game, that USA team last year, or the under-19 team, barely beat France. Is that the indicator of how good Wembanyama is? Because that USA team had Mike Miles, Chet Holmgren, Patrick Baldwin Jr., even though he didn't do nothing, Johnny Davis, Peyton Watson,
Yeah,
Kenny Lofton. I know
Chandler.
Kenny Chandler. I know I'm missing
Ivy.
some guys.
Ivy.
And we needed Kenny Lofton to save the country. Do you think that's an indicator of how good Wembanyama is? Because I mean, you had two of the top 6 guys in the 2022 draft on that team last year?
Yeah. And the only other guy who I've seen be considered a prospect on France's team is Matthew, and I'm gonna botch his last name, but I think it's
Strazel.
Strazel. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's the only other one. So like I think it says a lot about how good Wembanyama is. I mean, even in the final, he had 22 points on 6 of 14, shooting 8 rebounds, like 8 blocks. Like it was effortless.
Yeah, and he got in foul trouble. So yeah, that. Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking about that. Like, man, that team was loaded. There's gonna be at least 7 or 8 guys that have NBA careers from that under 19 team. And anyway, so for Mike Miles, do you have a comparison for him?
I'm not too happy with my comparison, but I'm gonna do it anyways. I see a couple. There's 2 guys who I see him as a blend of. Really 3. I've thrown some names around. I've thrown around for a lot of people, so I've heard mixed bag. But I'm gonna say him. Jalen Brunson's always been the one where he just the way he's a floor general, not super big, not really long, but just smart and efficient. I think is a lot of him. Some Fred VanVleet to him. Also the whole like low percentages. It kind of shades Fred VanVleet. And then this one's a little bit different, but a little bit more athletic version of Jameer Nelson. I think there's an athleticism gap between the two, but in terms of play style, I think they are kind of similar.
Yeah, that makes sense. Even if he falls in the middle, that's a long career, and that's definitely worthy of a first round pick. Now, I haven't seen him as a first round pick on any mocks, and I don't even know if I've even seen him in like the 30s.
I haven't seen him in any top 60s.
And one of the things I appreciate about you is that you kind of go against the consensus. I like have this new beef this year. I just feel like everybody's just following everybody. I had mentioned it, and I mean it would suck for the player to be part of this guinea pig, but I wondered if I just took this average player and paid off all these top publications and made him a top 10 player in the country, and then he was just average as a freshman, how many people would put him on their big boards and their mocks because they've seen respectable publications put him on
Oh,
there?
dude, it happened in 2020. I mean, I know there was an agent who was reaching out to a lot of draft Twitter to say, "Hey, plug my guy, plug my guy. You don't have to put him like in the second, first round, but like put him on your undrafted area." And a lot of people I saw, I was like, I would see all these people. I'm like, where did this come from? And then I heard the secret, and I was like, okay. And the players never played in the NBA. That stuff works. Like I think if you did it, it would happen. And I that's funny to me, but like it is true. Like the way the NBA is a copycat league, the draft is kind of a copycat. Like what's the word for it? But like it's a copycat or not organization, but like
Group think.
yeah, groupthink is real, very real, especially when you get down to like April and March after college has stopped. Oh,
Oh yeah.
you can convince anybody anything at that in that point.
I've had somebody offer me $300 to put a guy on the board on the first rounder. It's and I'm like, man, 300, that's a good start. I needed that $300 too. I didn't do it because it would have just been too wild. it would have been very, very obvious. Like people say I think outside the box, but this guy is his style of play was something that's like totally against like the consistency of guys that I like. So I just figured people would figure it out. So I had to turn it down. But yeah, I mean it's something that I really think is going on a lot. And like I said, that's why I respect your mind, because you've had Mike Miles since his freshman year. This is going on 3 seasons that you've been saying this. Nobody said it. So it takes a lot to go against the grain sometimes, because I think a lot of people are afraid to be wrong, especially in this era. You don't want like to have a strong opinion on a player. Then if it doesn't pan out, it stays on there forever. I know for me, I mean, it was even before I was really doing draft stuff. I tweeted that the Spurs made a mistake by trading for Kawhi Leonard on draft night, and I mentioned that he can't and all this stuff. And I'm not the type to delete tweets, but for like 5 years straight, every time he had a good game, my phone would just go off retweets, 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 because I thought the George Hill trade was a mistake, because I thought Kawhi was a center, not a 3, or I thought he was just an undersized 4 or 5. And yeah, I had to delete that. I mean, I had to
Dude,
plug out because it was 5 years straight that every time he had a good game, somebody would retweet it, and it would just keep going on and on and on and on and on and on and on. So,
you know, that's that's funny because not to completely get sidetracked, two things. I'll bring it back to topic, but Kawhi was somebody who that year, this is like one of the first years I ever did a mock and a board. I was like, Kawhi needs to go like top 4. I would take him with the second Cleveland pick. I was enamored with him. So it's funny that we were opposite, but not to take a victory lap. More of what I was actually going towards was, with Mike Miles kind of getting back to that, like I saw Desmond Bain for 3 years at TCU also. And like in 2019, my pin profile tweet is a tweet from 2019 and nobody thought he was draftable. I was like, this kid, like he just lit up the NBA shooting performance, put him on your boards and all that. And like, not to take these victory laps, but sometimes the consensus is wrong. And honestly, with draft, a lot of times the consensus is wrong. So like, it's okay to say actually no, because most guys don't pan out.
hey, I'm all about taking victory laps. Sometimes you have to. I had said yesterday, my grandfather told me something years ago. He says, a man that doesn't toot his own horn, his horn goes untooted. So,
Not
um,
wrong.
yeah. So I don't mind victory laps. All right. Before we get into Isaiah Wong, I guess it's not much of a teaser. I like to talk to all you small business owners about LinkedIn jobs, because as a small business owner or hiring manager, you know that your success in 2023 is dependent on the team members that you surround yourself with. So you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. With LinkedIn Jobs, you can hire qualified candidates more efficiently by matching open roles with people who have the skills, values, and experiences to help you achieve your goals. LinkedIn Jobs, it helps you attract qualified candidates to your open jobs with targeting tools. They go beyond just the resume. They have data using insights from your job posts, your company, and their 875 million member profiles that you can put in your post in front of the most qualified candidates. All you have to do is identify the most qualified candidates on LinkedIn Jobs, and you can connect with them faster and for free. And LinkedIn Jobs makes it easy to screen and rate applicants based on your job qualifications, all in one platform. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to and faster. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnba. That is linkedin.com/lockedonnba. Terms and conditions apply. All right. Once again, you are listening to the Locked On NBA Big Board Podcast. This is your host, Rafael Barlowe, with my co-host, Mavs Draft, Mr. Richard Stayman. It's almost like a victory lap episode for Richard. He's talked about Kawhi. He talked about Desmond Bain, and now he's looking right about Mike Miles. Isaiah Wong is someone that you've also been high on for the past 2 years. And not to like I don't know, brown nose, I guess that's
Hit me. Hit me.
is he's a guy that, and I'll be honest, I'm not as high on him as you. And I can't figure out why, because he has all the qualities that I like. I like bucket getters. I like guys that are just super confident, that get downhill, and guys that can create their own offense. I don't know why. I mean, it's like there's nothing about his game that really, really concerns me so much. But for some reason, I just haven't put him in my top 30 or 40 yet. So sell me on why
Well,
Isaiah Wong.
I think I know why you don't like him that much. That makes me sound like I'm coming at you, but
It's all
I
good.
feel like it's probably because, I mean, the jump shot's slow. Like, will it translate? It's a massive question mark. It's a real question mark. I imagine that's the core of it, at least. Like, the stats check out, especially right now. Everything checks out for him. I mean, on the year, he's averaging 17 points a game, career best 4.4 assists, 1.7 steals, all of these career highs. Rebounds 4.6 is just about, but like 46% from the field at the moment, 35 from three, 83% from the line. So for me, for those who don't know, I got to see Isaiah Wong. I went down to Miami. I'm actually going down there next month again to see him actually in a game. But last year I saw him one-on-one, got to see him practice, work out, all that stuff at the U. And he was working on his jump shot. I know he's worked a ton on that. I think the results speak for how hard he worked on it. But for me, I love him just because the size is kind of awkward for a combo guard, but he's athletic. He gets to the rim. He gets to his spots really easily, shoots off the dribble very well. I think he's the best space creator in the country 3 years straight now. There's an argument to be made. There's been like one or two one and dones that have overtaken him, like Trey Mann, although he was a 2 and done. But outside of those kind of guys, Isaiah Wong is the best space creator. I think he plays good defense. He understands the game really well. I like his game, and I think I think Mike Miles, I want to be clear on this, his ceiling is much higher. I do think he has the Jalen Brunson trajectory. Isaiah Wong's probably closer to like a microwave kind of guy. Maybe a Lou Will is maybe his path, and that it's a very basic comparison, but more just the role off the bench, scoring, microwave, do a little bit of everything offensively. And I think that has a lot of value still in this league.
Yeah, even when I look at my notes, I'm like, dang, everything I said about him, you would think I have him as a lottery pick. And I'm just going to read my notes. Quick and shifty, good burst, changes directions and good pace, aggressive downhill slasher, a shot maker, tough shot taker, professional scorer, creative off the dribble, fast and open floor, excels as a transition finisher, good rebounder for his size. He turns long rebounds into personal fast breaks. He's tough. He's competitive. He can make plays above the rim. He ranked in the top 93 percentile in isolation scoring. He can score out of pick and rolls. He ranked in the top 89 percentile in pull-up jumpers. Excellent mid-range pull-up game. Good finisher around the rim. Has soft touch finishes and floaters. All that's so then my concerns were shot selection. I thought he was turnover prone. Thought he had a weird, his size, undersized. His 3-point field goal percentage was decreasing. He only shot 30% from three as a junior. I had that it was somewhat of a concern that he is more of a scorer than a shooter. And usually that is something that kind of hurts people around draft time. And I thought that he really struggled shooting off the catch. But like I said, there are guys that I have similar notes for and I'm higher on them. So I don't know if it's just his size, maybe if he were bigger. I don't know. Like, honestly, how tall do you think he is? Like, do you think he's
answer this question?
Okay, so do you think he's smaller than the listed height?
I think he's 6'2" or 6'3". I don't think he's any taller than that.
Well, that's not too bad. I mean, you look at, even though totally different builds, like there's some people that are really stunned that Donovan Mitchell was 6'1". There's people that think he's like 6'4", 6'5", but he's 6'1". Yeah. I mean, he just has so many things that I like. Maybe I just need to watch his film again. And maybe I'm just disagreeing because, we need to have some disagreements on the show. Maybe we could do our Skip and Shannon where we just create fake takes and we just argue about it. Where do you see him being drafted, just realistically?
If he's getting drafted, it's always hard as an undersized combo guard 4-year player, right? I think if he gets drafted, it's in the 45 to 60 range, or I guess 58, 59, however many picks there are this year. That range is probably the most realistic. Now, that being said, I don't think draft night is the finish line, right? I think he would, if he gets drafted, like his path to success is a little bit easier. And I think he outperforms that draft slot very easily.
So it sounds like he's used the COVID year as a free year. I know ESPN has him listed as a junior.
Yeah, I don't know how that works. I know he has another year, but
yeah, you got a free COVID year.
Yeah.
If you're Isaiah Wong, do you come back to school?
Depends on that NIL package. I mean, I don't know if you saw what Nigel Pack got, but
yeah, hers like 400,000 or something like that.
Yep.
Which I've been hearing guys are getting even more than that. Like I've heard.
Oh yeah, that's a small deal.
Yeah,
I mean, Bronny's gonna get millions.
Yeah, but I've even heard, like, I had a scout tell me, and he told me this before the season. I don't know if it was an episode with you that I mentioned it on, but he says this is before they play the game. North Carolina is not going to be good, and Seth Trimble is going to have to play because those other guys got paid too much money. They're not hungry, and they're going from basically people not checking for them despite the fact that they're North Carolina to now this season everybody's going to be hunting them and they got money. And it's crazy he told me that before Mavs game, and it sounds like he is right. So but yeah, I mean, I think that the 400,000, and I don't know how accurate it is because you never really hear about how much guys are getting. I mean, I remember the number that was thrown out and then the whole rumors and all that. But some of the numbers I've been hearing for guys that aren't as good as Nigel Pack are definitely higher than that. And I think it's going to be very interesting for Isaiah Wong. There's another guy, I'm not going to mention his name, but I heard from a very valid source that it's a player also that he understands that his NIL deal is going to be more than what he's going to make as a rookie or even as a two-way player. It's double, and he may even come back for like a fifth year. All right, when we return, I'm going to find out who else Richard is high on. I knew the first two, but I don't know who else is on his list. But I want to tell you about BetOnline because BetOnline is your number one source for your sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. You can get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from pro football to college bowl season, basketball, baseball, you name it. It is all at betonline.net. And if you love sports podcasts outside of the Locked On team, you can find those at BetOnline as well. It is the fastest and the easiest way to get your betting info. So head to the website today. Use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, it is where the game starts. All right, last segment. I knew the first two names. Who is the third player that you are higher on than the groupthink consensus?
Yeah, this is somebody who I have seen in the first round, so I might actually be closer in the line, but I've been on them for so long that I feel like, I mean, I would take this person close, like just outside of the lottery personally, and that is Colby Jones of Xavier. He's somebody who, it's funny the path that I followed him on. Oh, I saw a lot of people, and it's kind of the same as the second person I'm going to list, but I heard his name as a freshman, and I'm like, this guy's not that good. Like, people are way tripping. And then I watched him last year, and I was like, oh my God, this guy's really good. His runner's great. Like, the numbers will come along, and surely they have. Like, the shooting touch has always been there, despite free throw percentage last year. And this year it's been really good. He had an uptick in scoring, 14 points a game. His assists have skyrocketed. Like, his passing's gotten even better. He's a consistent threat for 25 and 5 every night as a combo wing. I would say kind of plays shooting guard, kind of plays small forward, can play a little bit of point. But right now he's in the running for 50, 40, 80, which in college I feel like is pretty elusive. I mean, that's what Desmond Bane had. That was a metric that I kind of looked for. And I like him. He has good size, super long arms too. Like, I just think everything checks out for him as a wing.
Yeah, I agree. So my biggest concern for him was I felt like he was not a really confident three-point shooter off the catch. I felt like he would pass up open shots. And I mean, he would like pass up an open look, penetrate, and then find he'd make plays. But I thought he was just a little too hesitant. And I felt like in the NBA, he's going to have to be able to knock down that shot and be more confident shooter. And then I had some concerns about just the overall like burst and quickness. What are your concerns about Colby Jones?
Yeah, for me, I think it's just consistency and kind of like you said, the burst is mediocre, I would call it. I think just being consistent, proving that what he's done for the first month and a half, 2 months, I mean, it's almost half the season. Can he do it for another half of the season? And I think that's really the question mark, is how is he going to do when teams game plan for him? But he just kind of cooked Andre Jackson, who I would call one of the best wing defenders in the Big East. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of proof that he can be consistent.
I like Andre Jackson. Like if
Yeah,
this were about me, he'd probably be on my list of guys that I'm higher on than most. Yeah, but Jones is, like you said, 45% from three, so he's really improved on that. I mean, what is that, like 15 or 16 points that he's improved his 3-point shooting percentage? The volume it's still like 3 a game. I mean, like he went from like 2 to 3. So he's, up to about 1 a game. Not crazy volume considering that there's some guys that are shooting like 10 threes a game. What's the guy's name from UAB who's like leading the nation in scoring?
Oh, Jelly.
10 threes a game, and he's knocking them down at a consistent clip. But yeah, I like Colby Jones. I mean, I have started to see him get some first round buzz. Who else is on your list of guys that you feel like you're a little bit higher on than the consensus?
you got to know this one's coming. Trayce Jackson-Davis is somebody who kind of like Colby Jones after his freshman year, and I think that was the pandemic year that cut his team short. I had seen a lot of people on draft Twitter be like, "Oh, this guy's probably the next sleeper," and I was like, "Okay, this is like, maybe some big brain going on here where people are digging too deep." I watched him, I was like, "This dude can't even shoot." Like, no. And then I dove into him as at the end of his sophomore year. I was like, let me just check. I think I was like bored during the offseason trying to see if I could find some sleepers. And then I was like, oh my goodness, this guy can play. And then last year, kind of watched him as a whole during the season, was really impressed. And this year I've been just as impressed. He somehow continues to get more and more efficient despite teams knowing exactly what he's going to do and where he's going to go. For me, what stands out with him is just like we both live in Dallas. We've seen Dwight Powell thrive. Like he's an advanced stats darling. He's one of the best pick and roll guys in the league. Great next to Luka. I look at Trayce Jackson-Davis. He's more athletic. I would say he's better in the pick and roll in terms of just finishing. Not necessarily. I don't know if he has the same like ability to cut angles and whatnot that Dwight Powell does, but he can learn that. He's a way better defender. He can guard almost any position. And he can pass. Like you can trust him with the ball in his hands. He can do simple crossovers. I just feel like the shot, it's a fatal flaw to like upside, but to floor, I don't see how it really changes anything. Like he's still a pick and roll savant on both ends, really. And when you're big granted he's 6'10", but he has 7'3" wingspan, freakish athleticism. I think he overcomes it.
Yeah, he's somebody that, very similar. I was looking at stats when he was a freshman, like, dang, this dude is productive. Then you look at him as a sophomore, like 19 points a game. You're like, he's productive. And he is someone that is going to outplay some guy that was probably highly touted out of high school that is going to get drafted in the first round because of upside and length and athleticism, but just not skilled. And then you're going to see a guy like Jackson-Davis that is going to have a long career, in my opinion. I like him. The Dwight Powell comparison is pretty crazy. I felt like coming in as a rookie when he played for Boston. It's crazy. I mean, that was so long ago, it seems. I thought Dwight was more vertically explosive, but Jackson-Davis, it's weird. Like when you first glance, he doesn't look like your high flyer athlete, right? He's athletic, but he's always ranked amongst the leaders in dunks. And that's a weird stat that I look at is dunks, right? There's some guys that are really athletic and they don't get any dunks, right? And then you look at him, and then you look at Kalkbrenner, that he's not really athletic either, but he gets a lot of dunks. I think Jackson-Davis was, where was he at? I know I don't have the stats in front of me.
He's top 5.
Yeah, he's always up there in dunk. And then the thing that you said about him and as a role man is, I mean, he's an excellent finisher. I haven't seen the numbers this year. Last year he was at 82% as the role man. He's somebody that's probably going to fall to the second round, in my opinion, and he's going to give whatever team that he goes to excellent value. I think Dallas would be a really good fit for him. Definitely an underrated rim protector. Averaged a couple blocks per game last year. In your opinion, why do you think people just aren't as high on him? Or do you think it's one of those things where you're like, all right, he's been there too long and everybody's so excited about upside and one and dones and the high school hype that they forget the guys that are actually polished and skilled?
I think it's the fact that he's going to be 23 as a rookie who can't shoot. And I think people are so indulged with the fact that like, you have to do this, where it makes people forget. I mean, if you look at some of the centers that can't shoot, there's actually some really good centers that cannot shoot, and power forwards like that too. I mean, Ivica Zubac, for example, dude can't shoot. He's one of the most productive bigs in the league. And like, he's not an all-star or anything, but like, I think most teams would want a Zubac, somebody, especially on a good team with loaded stars who can just finish plays. You need it. And obviously they're not the same players, but just because you don't shoot doesn't make you some unplayable player. I think that's just an absolute wrong stereotype that has come to be, where it's like, all right, if you don't do this, you're out of the league. Like, you can't do it. But I think it's just the age and not shooting.
Here's my theory behind that. Why does he need to shoot in college? You can't stop him. And it's tough because on one hand, I've seen guys in college where they're kind of hurting their team because they're trying to improve their draft stock by showing everybody, this is what I've been working on. The scouts say I can't do this. I can't shoot, so I'm going to shoot 2 threes per game. And then you have guys like him where for some reason the free throw percentage is not bad. I mean, it's not great, but it's respectable. And I don't understand, if you can shoot free throws at that clip, you should be able to knock down short corner jumpers or elbow jumpers. But for him, of course, you would like to see it. It was one of my biggest questions coming into the season. I think I did an article where I had 10 questions of things that I wanted to see certain players add. And number one was him. I wanted to see, is he even going to attempt a jump shot outside of the paint? Is he going to shoot from the elbows or whatever? I don't have the numbers. I don't know if he has or not. I know he hasn't made a three, but he doesn't need to in college. He doesn't need to shoot jumpers to try to improve his draft stock and become less dominant. You know what I mean? Like, it just makes sense for him to just continue to do what he's good at on the college level, and then shoot jumpers at your pro day, shoot jumpers in your workout, and then go from there. So, I mean, it's one of those things where I'm not going to knock him, especially him, because he's so dominant and around the rim that I don't think he needs to shoot jump shots.
Yeah, and I mean, he has the same free throw percentage as Mo Bamba did in college, and Mo Bamba was touted as this stretch 5. So like, and kind of like you said, now they make him post up. Like they've taken away the role. Like they collapsed so hard on it. It's not going to happen in the NBA. They're not going to be focused on the 9th man rolling to the basket. Like if that was the case, Dwight Powell would be stopped by now, and it's been like 7 years running.
Yeah. I think if Jackson Davis goes to a team that has a crafty pick and roll ball handler or someone, I mean, Luka makes a lot of sense. Someone like Trae Young, but I mean, there's no real clear path to playing time in Atlanta. But yes, I think the Lakers have second round picks. I mean, he could provide some minutes there. And so I think that in a good system, I think that he's going to be a player that definitely outperforms where he's projected to go on draft day. All right, well, that wraps up this episode. It's been over 30 minutes. I feel like I had a pretty good week of content. Big thank you to you for coming on. Next week, we have some more surprises for you. All right, but before we go, I want to thank each and every person for making the Locked On NBA Big Board podcast your first listen of the day. Now, for your second listen, maybe even your third listen, just check it out. The Game to Game podcast. Every moment, every top performance, every result. Locked On Game to Game covers every game from across the NBA with local analysis that only Locked On can deliver. Follow Game to Game on the Locked On NBA podcast or Locked On NBA channel, available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Once again, this is Rafael Barlowe. He is Richard Stayman, and we are